Welcome members of the press, fellow Kenyans. Welcome to the daily updates on the current status of the coronavirus disease outbreak in Kenya. Yesterday, we embarked on mass testing for the 2,050 people who are currently in mandatory quarantine in various hotels and designated government facilities. In the last 24 hours, we have tested 172 samples. Out of this number, a total of 84 samples from quarantined guests have been analyzed. We have received confirmation of one person who have tested positive for the coronavirus disease. Apart from those in mandatory quarantine, we have also tested an additional 88 samples of close contacts of the 42 confirmed cases. Out of this number, we have received confirmation of 6 patients who have tested positive for the coronavirus disease. And an additional 1 patient from the Aga Khan Hospital. This now brings the total number of confirmed cases in the last 24 hours to 8. The total number of confirmed cases now stands at 50 in the country. Tracing of contacts for the 50 confirmed cases is ongoing. The total number of close contacts that we have so far been monitoring stands at 1,474. Out of this number, 231 have been discharged after completing the mandatory 14-day follow-up period. Currently, our teams are monitoring 1,211 close contacts. The 8 cases are now spread out in various counties in the country. Kitui now has 1 case. Nairobi County has 6 new cases, while Mombasa 1. This now puts Nairobi County at 34 cases of those who have so far tested positive, followed by Kilifi at 6, Mombasa at 3, Kajiado and Kwale 1 each, with now the Kitui one. Out of the 44 cases, 26 are male, while 18 are female. To date, we have tested 1,005 persons for the coronavirus disease. From the above data, it is evident that the virus is now being spread through community transmission. This now calls for a lot more personal responsibility among Kenyans in this fight against the disease. Community transmission means that the disease is no longer imported from the outside, but is here with us. We are now spreading it among ourselves. We must now raise our level of alert and intervention measures. To this end, we need to take a number of measures, with the most immediate being in the border transport industry. For now, we need to protect our youth who are in this industry as border riders. And therefore, we will now require that any border rider to protect himself must carry only 1 passenger so as to maintain some level of distance. Secondly, the boda rider and the passenger must wear masks for protection. We shall be spreading out masks in the counties for this purpose, but irrespective, they must wear, the boda rider and the passenger must both wear masks. We expect boda association leaders to oversee this process and ensure its implementation. The police will obviously be enforcing the same. Having said that, let me repeat that we are doing so to protect both the boda riders, and you can imagine how many people a boda rider has behind him for per day, and they have no idea who has got the virus and who hasn't. This is a measure so that that business can continue. It continues to follow the rules. Following the imposition of the curfew in our country, we are now urging the employers to release their employees at 4 p.m. from the workstations. This will enable people to be able to make travel arrangements to their houses before 7 p.m., which is the curfew time. Further, we are giving an advisory that we are encouraging those who stay in Nairobi. Nimesema ya kwamba wale watu ambao wako Nairobi, watu wakaaji wa Nairobi, sasa tunamsihi mkae Nairobi. Msianze kutembea, msiende popote. Msiende Ushago, msiende kutembea Mombasa ama pahali pengine, kwa sababu sana sana kwanza Ushago, huko ndio kina mama wanakaa, wazee ndio wanakaa, na hivi Lucy inaonyesha ya kwamba mzee akiipata kupona ni ngumu, sio kama vijana. Kwa hivyo sisi wale ambao ni vijana, mkiwa hamtaki kuua wale wazee, basi kaeni hapa Nairobi, msiende huko nyumbani mpaka siku hizi ziishe, tuone vile hii virusi inaenea. Asanteni sana.
Question? Yes.
Following the curfew that you've directed that employers have to release their employees by 4 p.m. and most people, there are people who work at night, of course, they do not have anything to put to the table of their families. So probably because it's at the end of the month, some people have been asking whether you're going to ask landlords not to ask for rent, and also the issue of food for people who work at night or who completely cannot work right now during the curfew. Do we have any plans by the government to provide aid or food to such people?
First and foremost, we have said that we have not stopped work. We have not stopped people from working. Let's start from there. Because if you are on a night shift, you should be able to go to night shifts. If you are on a day shift, you should be able to go on a day shift. But in terms of the difficult times that clearly everybody is going to experience, we have plans as a government to see how we can assist people as much as we can, including the answer to your question regarding foodstuffs. But what we would like to urge is also communities. The business community has already volunteered to do to take over some of the issues that you have said. In fact, even providing food in certain cases. But what we are also asking is let our communities work together for a change. Let people be together. Let's share what one has. I'm also asking the employers, please do not withhold people's salaries, people's wages, just because of the situation that currently exists. And for clarification, the 4 p.m. departure is not to say that you start reducing people's pay or people's salaries. It is simply to allow them to leave a bit earlier. Some of the people that we are dealing with have helped employers for many, many years. It is time also for employers to support them the way that employees have also supported these companies. So it's time to give. This is a time to give. It's a time to sacrifice. And we all should, and we all must. And further, for further clarification, yesterday, when we were talking about the number of cases that we had, one of the people that we announced, we said that was an American, but it has further been clarified that the person had actually traveled to America, but was not an American, and that is regretted.
Thank you, Seth Olale, NTV. CS, 2 weeks ago you didn't mention, actually a week ago you didn't mention that the coming 14 days are going to be crucial, especially for the authorities and for Kenyans. In terms of their progress, what are our greatest advantages? Because we are so far 1 week into the 2 weeks, and what are our greatest fears? How are we doing in terms of, even as the numbers are coming in, we're at 50 right now. Where are we in terms of comparison with how this particular pandemic has affected the nations, and especially Europe? So are we scared? Should we be worried right now? Or is it a thumbs up for us? As
I hear you. Let me put it this way. It appears that the modeling of this disease varies from place to place. Because I think it's almost a month since we announced, it's going on to a month, since we announced the first case. Now, when you look at other countries, the examples from other countries, it's very different.
Good morning, viewers. Welcome to Punchline Africa Television, broadcasting from Nairobi on Miriam's side and from the Political Command Center from miles away to Nairobi. Thank you very much, viewers. Wherever you are in the world, thank you very much for joining in. This is a Good Morning Show. It is a show for the people of Africa. It's a show for the people of the world. It's a show that will bring out facts, get facts to the people, educate the people, bring about solutions to the people of Africa. This morning we lost a great son of Kenya, the name of Bishop Ezekiel. I think Miriam will do the eulogy there from the studio. Joining me now in the studio, and don't forget our number is now on +254 795 638 145 live in Nairobi. When you feel like you have a complaint to make, not a complaint, we don't like complaints now. We want solutions. We want solutions. What can we do during this COVID-19? Don't call us to say Miriam is beautiful or Matanga is ugly. Don't call us to tell us stories that will help the community. This is a community broadcasting station. Community infection could be bigger. How are we prepared to do it? What are the government guidelines? That's what we want to talk about this afternoon, this morning. Good morning, Africa. Thank you very much. Over to you, to Miriam, Ogutu, thank you very much, my dear.
Indeed, a very good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're watching us across the world. Thank you so much. This is Good Morning Africa show, of course, where we get to bring you the latest, not just in Kenya, but also in the continent. But of course, we start at home because, as they say, charity begins at home. So we shall start with some of the guideline measures here the government has put in place to ensure that Kenyans are safe, and then we shall proceed there and look at the statistics as they stand right now in some of the African countries and then globally, and then we shall touch on other African news across the continent. But first off, as Doctor has mentioned there, this morning Kenyans woke up to a sad news. We've lost a retired Archbishop Ndingi Mwananzeki. He was the Archbishop of the Catholic Church a couple of years ago. He retired now, and he was born Raphael Ndingi Mwananzeki, born on the 25th December 1931 in Mwala in Machakos, Kenya, and is a retired Archbishop of the Roman Catholic Archdiocese of Nairobi here in Kenya. Now, Ndingi, of course, he was ordained as a bishop in 1969 and served in the capacity in the Diocese of Machakos and Nakuru before being appointed as a coadjutor in the Archbishop of Nairobi in 1996 as an assistant to then Cardinal Maurice Michael Otunga. And then he succeeded Cardinal Otunga on April 21st in 1997 as the Archbishop of Nairobi. He was retired by Pope Benedict the 6th on October 6, 2007, after attaining the age of 75 years. He was succeeded by the current Cardinal John Jue, who was his assistant in Nakuru. So this morning, of course, Ndingi will be remembered so much. He was very vocal in the days when he was heading the Catholic Church. Ndingi was one of the clergymen who played an active role in the struggle for the reintroduction of the multi-democracy in Kenya when the church had a voice in this country. And we saw people like Ndingi Mwananzeki speaking truth to power during those days under the regime of our late now President Daniel Toroitich Arap Moi. And although he was moderate, who tried avoiding inciting the public against the government, the atrocities committed by the repressive, a regime there forced him to publicly condemn, of course, President Moi. Then he is best remembered for his fearless confrontation of the provincial administration and the police for their role in political clashes that happened in this country in 1992, where 2,000 people were reported to have died. Just understanding this man, retired Archbishop Ndingi Mwananzeki, who served as the Archbishop of the Catholic Church here in Kenya a couple of years ago, before he was retired there in 2007. May the good Lord rest his soul in eternal peace.
Thank you very much, Miriam, for the good introduction and the eulogy on the Archbishop Mwananzeki, who was died, born in 1931 in Mwala in Machakos then district. It is now a county divided in several counties. Machakos was one of the biggest areas in Kenya. It runs all the way, bordering the Mombasa, the Kwale, and the other places, Masai, and up to Nairobi. Thank you very much, Miriam. Let's push on with our agenda. We have a very straightforward cut agenda this morning. The newspapers, the Star newspaper, we begin with the Star. The state assembles top scientists to fight coronavirus. What is your statement? And then we have a MOF, 10,000 may get virus by the end of April. There are so many people who are very itchy about that statement, but I think projection is always in the hands of God. But Mr. Amof has done his level best. Some of these figures should be hidden. That's what people are saying. But we have to be very frank about it, that if we don't observe the manners, the behavior, our behavior is the one causing the governments to put up all these draconian measures. In Uganda, for example, we are coming, it is a long story that Museveni put 13 regulations. People violated almost everything. So what do you do to such a country? What do you do when people are walking to town, when you have told them don't walk to town, don't be in groups, then you are walking in groups, you are touching people's hands. So these are some of the things that the scientists quietly work out a method to find the coronavirus, medicine. COVID-19 is also causing criminals that are disguising themselves as state officials to steal money or sensitive information from people. Be careful. There are so many people, criminals like Echesa, who could actually do the Echesa dance. At this moment, be careful. Kenyans don't do Echesa dance in Kenya. In Nigeria, you must have one of the top well-known person who could be a Echesa style. Nigeria, remember, has got a school that trains the Echesas and the corruption. And I was very shocked. I've never seen a school that trains people in corruption. But Mr. Buhari has let it down and it will go to that level. Now, never ask for your username or password. Never email attachments you didn't ask for. Ask you to visit a link which you don't like. I don't visit those type of links. Never charge money to apply for a job or reverse a hotel. Never conduct lotteries or offer prizes via M-Pesa. There are so many hackers, experts who have now come in who want to steal money from us and who want to con innocent Kenyans and Africans and other nationalities worldwide. Be careful on that one. Over to you, Miriam. I've done with the star and
just before, yes,
strategy Kenya needs to defeat COVID-19.
Yes, and just before we finish up with the star, I think I wanted to say something on the headlines there before we move to another newspaper. And the state assembles top scientists to fight coronavirus. I think that is very encouraging, and of course, President Uhuru Kenyatta and his government has been on top of his game in trying to ensure the country, is prepared in regards to anything that might happen, any numbers. And we've seen him working really overtime together with his cabinet ministers and the people in the top leadership, then the Minister of Health especially, said kudos. So I think that inspires a lot of confidence, and Kenyans know that, regardless of whatever is happening, there are people actually who are in charge and who are really working to find a solution and to ensure that we're all safe. And also here you mentioned there, the 10,000 may get virus by the end of April. And as much as people might think this is a very alarming numbers, and sometimes maybe to not have been appropriate to put it out there for the Kenyans to see, because right now a lot of people are getting very jittery about the numbers. But I think when you see the manner in which Kenyans have been acting and how they've been responding to some of these measures the government has put in place, they have to know if they don't observe the cleanliness, if they don't observe social distancing, if they continue crowding, if they continue doing these things, this will be the reality we shall be dealing with. So I don't have a problem with these numbers, because Kenyans need to know. So perhaps this will scare them off and will help them now understand the gravity of this matter. And maybe now they'll start paying attention to some of these measures the government is putting in place. When they look at those numbers at the end of April, the country perhaps might be having 10,000. And I think they used countries like we've seen across the world who have also had projections. And it is the same projections that made President Trump even change his mind, the way he was carrying out and handling this coronavirus in the United States. His chief, the person who is on the top there in regards to the health ministry, they told him, no, if you're not careful, we can lose around 200,000 Americans. And that really helped him change his perspective. So our government has been really trying to sensitize Kenya, to create awareness to Kenyans. But we see the manner in which some Kenyans are receiving this, and you walk around and you still find them in groups. You still find them not really observing these measures. So the government here now is telling us, if you people continue the way you continue. If you continue traveling to the villages when you're not supposed to be traveling there, if you continue being in a crowded place, these are the numbers that we shall be looking at in April. So I'm hoping this should scare Kenyans enough to ensure that they observe these measures that the government has put in place to ensure that they're safe and other people are also safe.
Thank you very much, Miriam. Safe, and our other people are also safe. You haven't forgotten our stay home, stay safe. Show it to us. It should always be around there. That is it. You don't need even to say much. Stay home, stay safe. Use the guidelines. Wash. Talking about the guidelines, can you, our system play that even younger people who are at school, you can see, or when we reach the guidelines, is when we shall play that video from Uganda. I think Miriam fits to actually advertise this Corona COVID-19. You look so nice on it, and I don't know why they are not approaching me to release you to go and do the advert. You look nice with it. Do it again, and I will see 4 people. Stay home. There you are. It is upside down. Yes. Exactly. With that smile, exactly. I think Stephen can take a photo, direct photo. You have a direct photo that I can circulate all over the whole world. Stay home and stay safe. Punchline Africa Television tells you, follow the government regulations, Jamen. Follow the government. Follow that Mutahi Kagwe. Follow him. You might hate his head, you might hate his mouth, you might hate his talk, his language, but follow him. There is some sense in what he's trying to pump out to us. Thank you very much. Let's move on to another paper. Is the Daily Nation. Take it on.
Indeed, and on the front pages of the Daily Nation, it says coronavirus exposes crisis in Kenya's ICUs. And it continues to say, dire situation. The best scenario for the country is to contain the spread of the COVID-19 because with 518 intensive care units beds, only 70 are available for use. And even though it is only patients with serious complications who will be referred to these units, the situation paints a grim picture of a sorry state of affairs. So, all right, so this really, according to the headlines here, exposes the condition, especially on our public health sector here, which you know has been having some problems, but perhaps they're suggesting should these numbers go up and the ICU require more people to be admitted there, then we are facing another crisis that I don't know what the government might do to avert.
Let me tell you, the situation is becoming very manageable. Most countries. But Kenya has struggled, has pushed it, has brought the news that we want, delivered the information that we want. It is incumbent upon us to make sure that we take in the information. The corona exposes crisis. Yes, the crisis is there. Even Britain that has NHS has a crisis. Even America that has the whole world, including going to the moon, it can go. They can take their president to secure him on the moon. They still have a crisis. What else do you want from them? Over to you, Miriam.
Yes, indeed, and we've seen this is not just a problem here in Kenya. We've seen it is a problem, as Dr. there has said, across the globe. Even the countries which has the best health systems are being tested right now. We've seen them making makeshift beds. We've seen them lacking even enough beds in the ICU. So I think this is a global problem. And now when we go to individual countries, especially in Africa, I think right now this illness has not spared even the most countries you think could be very prepared in such a situation. So it is something that we are dealing with across the globe. So I know as long as the different governments are doing the best, they know how to ensure that they're able to save the doctors, they are able to save as much lives as possible. I think whatever effort is being made, we should just continue to encourage, because this is a crisis, not just in Kenya, not just in Uganda, not just in Nigeria. The US right now don't even have enough ventilators. They don't even have enough face masks. I mean, this is a global problem in scales that nobody has seen. So I think they're doing the best they can. So I'm just praying that we don't have that many people that will require using the ICU. Otherwise, it's going to be a crisis here, as it is in the US, as it is elsewhere across the world. And so, yes, that is on the front pages of the Daily Nation there, and they give us the numbers there, and by the numbers they say 752,854 plus. Those are the number of confirmed cases. These are on the front pages, so I'm sure these numbers, perhaps they put them there close to midnight, but we have the latest there we shall read, so I will not even get into that, Doctor. We go to our last newspaper this morning, just a few minutes to noon here in Nairobi, perhaps 4 minutes or so to noon here. So we look at the Standard newspaper.
The Standard newspaper brings a headline that is shocker. Pandemic hits home. It hits home where it is already here. What do you think about that statement?
Pandemic hits home. I think it comes from maybe just quoting what Mutahi Kagwe is said to have said yesterday, and he said from the above data, it is evident that the virus is being spread through community transmission. Community transmission means the disease is no longer being imported, but it is here with us. We are now spreading it among ourselves, because initially we were worried about people who are coming from outside the country to import the disease here. But what now we are learning, the new numbers that perhaps we'll be seeing from now moving forward in the coming days, this will be people who came into contact with the people who are traveled inside the country. So we are no longer at risk of importing the illness from outside, but it is here. So if this is not taken care of, then it will now spread at home. It is here with us, the people we love, we came into contact with them, and so it shall continue spreading from one person to the other, from one Kenya to the other. So now it is no longer who is coming inside the country to bring us the illness, because all the planes coming from outside have been burned, but now it is the people who came with it and the people they came into contact with that are now will be the vehicle to spread this virus. So now it's here, and now Kenyans must be very careful, because the pandemic now will be spread from home.
Thank you very much, Miriam. The academic will be spread from home. Community infection. One person to the other one. So on that note, Miriam, I just want to thank you very much. I want to go through the guidelines, because I have just received a telephone call that I have to run somewhere urgently. I want to look at the guidelines. And today's guidelines, you have them, the government guidelines, direct. I am emphasizing this point, and I want to talk to the people now of Kenya before I leave you to continue with your show of Africa and the figures that are much needed so that you can catch up with the rest. The guidelines in every African country are the most important rules that you must follow. It is the government that should give you where to go, how to go, when to go, and how to come out. So the people of Africa, and especially the people of Kenya, must adhere to the guidelines. I can see two of my well-learned guys, David Ndii and Donald Kipkuror, fighting over Twitter. Surely these are not, they look like they are zombies. They are looking for likes, and how many people have liked my writing and my post. We should be giving people guidelines. We should be thinking of solutions. We should be looking at what has the government ordered. The government has done, the government directed that all employers facilitate work from home for their staff and call on people to make cashless transactions. How many of us are going to the bank to carry 200 million? There are many people even seeking for more money. If the manager does not give him, he says he wants more money. How many people are still going to draw money and carry it and spend money? Why don't you use cashless transactions? Tell the bank to put your money on M-Pesa. And anybody who wants it, pay him on M-Pesa. People don't want to catch that money now. It is a crime against humanity to have money being caught by so many people. So when you look at what is happening right now, you will find that things are not themselves as you see. Suspend entry of flights, which the government did very well, and then you ordered the self-quarantine of all people who have entered Kenya. They have done it. Those are guidelines. Those are very good guidelines. They suspend learning in all institutions. That government has done that. You see, you don't want to go the Ugandan way. President Museveni gave people 13 conditions. Out of 13, they observed none. People continued shaking hands, meetings, MPs calling for rallies for food handouts, you know. So yesterday night, he gave them only 20 minutes. If you are driving in Uganda yesterday at 10 past, 1 minute past 10, people left their cars where they are. They have just collected them, some of them this morning. He said, today in Uganda, as we speak, there is no car on the road except police, army, ambulance, and the government vehicles that have been You know, one of the things that Kenya could pick from the Uganda experience is all government vehicles are handed over to the Ministry of Health. All government, the GKs we see running around, drivers driving unnecessarily. In Uganda, they have been handed over to the district or county medical officer for ambulances, to turn into ambulances. Preparations, help the government. How many people are helping the government? How many stadiums in Kenya are ready? Buhungu Stadium, Nzoia, Kitale Stadium, all these areas should be ready. They should not start making preparations such that when the thing, if God does not take it away, it comes upon us, it is home, as the standard says, we people are ready to go where the assembly points are. At the moment, Miriam, the assembly points are not well known. We don't know where they should be demarcated. People are blaming the government on the government. All of us should help in making sure that where the churches. I saw some bishops on Twitter crying that they don't have the food. They used to get money from the from the offerings. That because the churches have been closed, the president needs to look after them. You see, this is something which is not touching only the president. It's touching everybody in the world. Therefore, don't expect the president to be helping you in any format. The president can help in food. Why in Kampala, the president has said the food will be given to those who have come to Kampala? There are some people in Uganda who have never known how Kampala looks like. If this is his own home area, they are eating the food in the gardens. So hunger will not strike people in the villages. Hunger is going to strike people in areas of the CBD. So these are some of the things, Miriam, that I would like to bring to your attention today. And thank you very much for that. Thank you for making sure that this is done in accordance with quite a number of other things, that the guidelines that the traders are warned, people are supposed to stand 2 meters away, social distancing. These are some of the things that the government has put out as guidelines. But unfortunately, in Africa, we wait for the the dead bodies to be at the GPO, then everybody will go around the village to say, I saw 2 or 5 or 6 of them. That's how the situation, the tragedy of Africa is. Miriam, with those words, I want to beg you that, Ma'am, I want to ask you, with all your good kindness and your good eyes, to look through me and give me permission to exit.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Betsanga there. And I'll see you in a bit at the Diaspora Dispatches, so please don't go too far. Diaspora Dispatches, we'll be right back. Thank you so much.
Dispatches, you will see me at the frontline security program at 2.
Yes, indeed.
At the moment where I'm going, it might take a long time. And I can see your internet is playing about. It is playing. It is not giving the right. I think Stephen has seen that. I don't know whether you have seen. You have looked at it.
They're working on it. Yes.
Yes. Thank you very much, Miriam. Thank you. You've given me permission to leave.
All right. We'll see you. We'll see you later.
Okay.
All right. I'll see you in a bit.
So really, we just want to assure all Kenyans that we are working very hard as a ministry, as a government, as a health sector, as a country, a whole government approach to addressing the challenge that is currently facing us of coronavirus. And the team that we have been meeting with this evening has been a team of experts. Some health workers, experts in communication, experts in social media, all looking at how we work together to make sure that, number one, Kenyans are aware, they are well sensitized about what we are dealing with, that we all also learn what precautionary measures we need to take to ensure that we can prevent ourselves from getting coronavirus, and also to ensure that we protect our families. The team of experts here has been doing a lot of work in terms of their own practice, the clinical practice, the protocols around coronavirus. This is a new virus that the medics have never dealt with, that the entire health workers have not dealt with. Feel that you're very ill to go into a matatu, to go to hospital, we really recommend that you call the 719 line and get us to come and pick you through an ambulance which has got specialized facilities and with health workers to take you to an isolation facility where you can be tested. So basically, we are just aligning our coordination and making sure that we have a seamless operation even as we deal with coronavirus. And I just want to thank the entire team, the entire fraternity in communication world, social media world, our experts in health, for their really for their commitment and self-sacrifice. We've been sitting here up to very late hours in the night, days on end, and people are here really just volunteering themselves to serve this nation. So my deep appreciations, and to all of us, please keep us hooked up to our conversations, be kept in the loop through hashtag Comesha Corona. Thank you very much.
A very good afternoon to you. About 10 minutes past the midday here in Nairobi. Earlier on, we were looking at the news-making headlines across Kenya in Good Morning Africa, and we looked at the headlines of the leading newspapers here in the country, and also some of the measures that the government of Kenya has put in place to ensure that Kenyans observe them, for them to be safe, and for us to be able to curb the spread of the COVID-19, which right now stands at 15 cases here in Kenya. One person has recovered of the 50 cases. Sorry, did I say 15? No, 50 as per yesterday. And we're still waiting for another 14. The Ministry of Health said through the CS, Mr. Mutahi Kagwe, that they shall confirm another 14 cases today. And so we're waiting for that. And so, but right now, Kenya has confirmed 50 cases. And of the 50 cases, one person has is well, has recovered, and one person died. So the active cases we have here in the country is about 48, if I'm not very wrong. I see that is how they, in some sites, when you go to look at these figures, that's what they say, the active cases. So they don't count the dead, they don't count the ones who have recovered, they count the active cases. So thank you so much. And now let's turn our focus and look at other matters across Africa and other countries also. Still, the coronavirus is at the top of a lot of the news-making headlines across Africa. So perhaps before we just get into it, can we just look at some of the newspapers here in the continent? I don't know which one we're going to start with. Let me just see for today, because we always look for some newspapers across the continent so that we are able to see what else is happening across Africa outside of, and so we start with the Punch from Nigeria, and this is what the Punch says. Abuja, Lagos, and Ogun on a lockdown, and Soyinka, San Ejia fight over legality of Buhari's directive, and President stay-at-home order illegal, not enforceable. That is what Falana said. And then Makinde test positive, self-isolates. Coronavirus cases rise to 131 there in Nigeria. And then Buhari signs the COVID-19 regulation to enforce a 14-day lockdown. And as I mentioned up there, according to this, and also I think we talked about it yesterday, Abuja, Lagos, and Ogun are right now under a lockdown. And remember, President Buhari said this during a live telecast from the official residence of the president, I assume. He has been missing in action since this matter started, and Nigerians have been asking for him to come out and speak to the country. And so on Sunday, he made a televised, speech there, a press conference there from the official residence of the president in Nigeria, and he laid a couple of he mentioned a couple of measures, and one of them was to put these three states on a lockdown. So tell me how you feel about that, especially seeing how much President Buhari has been missing in action. And then we move to the Sun newspaper from, I think, is it in Namibia, if I'm not wrong. And we also see there, yes, the Namibian, the Sun there, budget faces knock. Government may have to go back to the drawing board and reshuffle its budgetary priorities as the first mark of the coronavirus bite stands to show. And so we've seen there in Namibia now, from what I can decipher from that headline, is that now the government of Namibia might be forced to go back and relook at its own budget allocations, because the countries, I think, in Africa, in Kenya, in East Africa, we do normally, our budgets are read in around June there. So a lot of countries are still now working on their next budget for the next financial year. So in here, Namibia says the government might want to relook its budget allocation because the coronavirus has made some of the monies that were, that were meant to do other things to be channeled towards, the COVID-19 fight there in Namibia. And also still in Namibia there, the Namibian, in the front pages there, it says lockdown, travel with permit allowed. So you cannot travel just anyhow there in Namibia. So unless you have a permit to travel, and unless, I don't know if you are an essential service person, that you're allowed to travel. Maybe you're a doctor, or I don't know, but they're saying there you only travel when you have a permit, because as it is now, the government of Namibia is trying to put measures in place to ensure the COVID-19 is not transferred from one country to the other. And then move to Tanzania, and we see the Mwananchi newspaper there, watano zaidi wabainika kuambukizwa corona. So what essentially they're saying, for our viewers who do not understand Kiswahili, which is the East African, national language in majority of our countries, English and Kiswahili. So they're saying 5 more people test positive for coronavirus in Tanzania. Very interesting there, as much as Tanzania do not have very high figures yet. forget, I think right now the country is at, if I'm not wrong, is it 19 or how many? So yesterday, 5 more people tested positive for corona. And remember, President Magufuli has been receiving a lot of backlash over his approach to this coronavirus, and is saying people should continue going to work. People should continue going to the places of worship, and Tanzanians should not really worry much about this. And he's saying this is just a thing that will pass away. He calls it demonic, and so I think I don't know if should the numbers increase in Tanzania. I don't know what the president might have himself to blame, because as much as we go to pray and to worship, that is all good, but also it is wise to take some of these precautionary measures. Even Jesus himself told the devil, do not try me like that. When he told him you could jump from a building because you're the Son of God, God will send his angels and they'll protect you. He said, no, you don't test God. So can we stop testing God? Wash your hands, sanitize, social distance. Yes, and that way perhaps God will protect you. You have to take the initiative, all right? Okay, good. So we go to the New Vision, and that is the newspaper from Uganda. And this morning, all private cars blocked, a curfew from 7 p.m. to 5 a.m. daily, and also only cargo trucks allowed to move. And Minister tips vendors on distancing. We see there on the front pages of the New Vision there, the newspaper from Kenya. And we shall talk about in depth in some of those measures that Ugandan government has put in place, because the initial measures that had been given earlier, Ugandans did not seem to be taking heed. So now yesterday, President Museveni do not play. He came out and said, you know what? Okay, we are trying to make it lenient for you, but you don't listen. So this is what the government is going to do, and that's it. So we shall look at that when I'll be looking at the African news. And so the Guardian post from Cameroonian billionaires missing in the fight against coronavirus. It's very interesting there, and then mentioning names noted for always making huge financial and material donations to support political and social cultural activities. The country's billionaires are looking away as coronavirus bites harder. It's very interesting. I think it's only in Nigeria that I've seen leading their billionaires have come out of wealthy people in Nigeria, and I think in other few African countries, and also in Zimbabwe, a person like Strive Masiyiwa has really come through in helping, especially the health sector, helping as much as he can. But I think it's in Nigeria that I've seen a lot of people come out. The leading billionaire in Africa, Mr. Dangote, we've seen Atiku, we've seen others, also some names I can't even remember, who have come out and they've pledged a certain amount of money that should go in helping the fight against coronavirus. And also not forget the leader of the IPOB, Mr. Nnamdi Kanu, also gave his contribution. Was it about 50 million naira? Or is it, I think, to help, the countries in, yesterday I said Southeast, but one of our viewers corrected me and said, no, it's supposed to help all the Biafran, communities. So, all right. Thank you so much for that correction. So that is the newspaper there from Cameroon. And then still in Cameroon, total confinement is inevitable. And so it's saying Cameroonians also should look forward. But what is very interesting, even as Cameroon records one of the numbers that are high here in the continent at around, right now they stand at 131 cases that have been confirmed in Cameroon so far. On Friday, the Muslims in Cameroon, refused to honor the directive that was given by the government to not go to their places of worship, and they went and they worshipped. So it's very difficult to know, to really help in that negates the fight against coronavirus. And also priest mocks bears COVID-19 silence. That is another newspaper there from Cameroon. It's called In Depth News, and they're saying COVID-19 hurts businesses, but prostitutes have other ideas. Oh, really? That is very interesting. Okay, you go get yourself the copy of In-Depth News and see how this is even working. But, the main headline there is a priest mocks beer COVID-19. It's very interesting. Mr. Paul Biya has not come out. to speak openly and give directions on what is happening in Cameroon and what Cameroonians should look forward to and what really is the problem there. So very interesting there. And then that other catchy, headline there about the prostitutes having other ideas. You think they'll do what? They'll have home calls? I don't know what will happen to the married people there who seek for their services. But thank you so much. That is just a few, newspapers across the continent. So right now, and we apologize for the poor signal, but we have to just have a bit of the news here in Africa before we can work on it, and perhaps later on in the afternoon we will have a better signal and we shall have a good show. Nevertheless, I'll just go through the news-making headlines and read through, and then I shall come back and read the statistics right now as they stand. And so we start with Uganda, and Ugandan President Yoweri Museveni has announced a raft of strict measures lasting just over 2 weeks to stop the spread of coronavirus in the country. In a televised national address on Tuesday evening, he announced a ban on private vehicle use, which would mean anyone needing emergency medical care will need to ask a high-level district official for permission before leaving their home. Market traders selling food will also have to live close to their stalls for this period and cannot go back home. All right. Now that's really okay. So Uganda has 33 confirmed cases of coronavirus, but officials say numbers will rise, and patients like pregnant women in labor will have to first call an official before going out to seek medical help, unless they can access a government vehicle. But these are often hard to come by. Now, that should be an exception. I don't know. But we look at, you tell me what you think about that. And some of those measures that President Museveni has put there. Let me just read through a production. Don't remove that. Let me just read through and just finish with this Ugandan matter so that we're able to see what really President Museveni means when he says some of these things. So he prohibits all people. This is just an anti-COVID-19 steps according to the new vision. And these are some of the measures that President Museveni announced. And we start there: prohibit all people to people movement by everybody, including those using the private vehicles, boda bodas, tuk-tuks, etc. And the second point, shopping malls, arcades, and hardware shops are suspended for 14 days, starting with the 1st of April 2020. That is starting tomorrow. And also all the non-food shops or stores should also close. Only food stores and stores selling agricultural products, veterinary products, detergents, and pharmaceuticals should remain open. And also the supermarkets should remain open, but with clear standard operating procedures. And also the established food markets in Kampala and the other towns should continue to be open. And also salons, lodges, and garages should also be shut for 14 days. Woe unto you if your car got a problem now. The mechanics are not available. And also, like the farms, we would like the factories to keep producing because that is the lifeblood of the country. And also construction sites should continue if they can be able to encamp their workers for 14 days. And also essential services will remain open. Cargo transport within Uganda and between Uganda and the outside must continue. And then gatherings of more than 5 persons are hereby prohibited. And then apart from the cargo transporters, there will be a curfew starting at 7 p.m. and also RDCs to give permission to transport patients to hospitals, a fund to be set up to accelerate industrialization, and government to discuss the banks, water and electricity companies on how to deal with loans and bills, and government to distribute food items to some Ugandans. Politicians found distributing food will be arrested. All right. So, Mr. Bobby Wine, listen. This is not the time to feel philanthropic. Museveni is saying, if you think after releasing that song, now you want to go there and start feeding some Ugandans from your area that you represent as a member of parliament, you will be definitely arrested. That is not your call. You're not supposed to do that. I don't know. Some of these measures make a lot of sense. But when I read through, especially for the pregnant women part, you have to seek permission. Does he understand how labor comes? You don't even have time to stop and think, I need to call some government official for me to get to the hospital. And these measures are quite punitive. But also I'm thinking, he's here saying, like the farms, we would like the factories to keep producing because that is the lifeblood of the country. But hear me. How will these, factory workers go to work if public, transportation has been banned? No cars are allowed to be seen in the streets, only government vehicles. So how can factories keep working? Well, these people cannot access the factories. I don't know how this is going to work. And also when you say all the shopping malls will be closed, here in Kenya, the shopping malls, the anchor tenant usually is a supermarket. So if you were to close down a shopping mall and say it should not be accessible, that means a lot of people cannot go shopping because a lot of shopping malls do actually have food stores inside there. And so I don't know how that is in Uganda, but over here, the anchor tenants usually are supermarkets, these huge supermarkets, in the country. So I don't know how that is going to work if the shopping malls close there in Uganda. But some of that makes a lot of sense. But a lot of these measures, I don't know how Ugandans are going to work with that. But there it is. President Museveni is just trying as much as possible to ensure the people of Uganda actually are kept safe. So whatever it takes, Mr. Museveni, they say, that is what we're going to do. All right, and still in Uganda, Ugandan authorities have charged a controversial pastor who is accused of telling his congregation that there is no coronavirus in Africa. Look at that. Now, prosecutors accused Augustine Yiga of making the comments to the Revival Christian Church congregation on Friday. In comments carried by local television stations, the pastor faces a jail term of up to 7 years should he be found guilty. But so far, he has pleaded not guilty. And we go to Congo, where the former president of the Republic of Congo, Joaquim Yombi Opanga, has died in Paris from complications related to coronavirus. He was 81 years old and his family said he had been ill before contracting the virus. Mr. Yombi Opanga led Congo Brazzaville from 1977 until he was toppled in 1979 by the country's current leader, Denis Sassou Nguesso. And since 1979, Denis Sassou Nguesso is still in power there in the Republic of Congo. And so he spent several years in prison before multi-party democracy was introduced in 1991 and served as a prime minister until civil war broke out in 1997. He went into exile and in France and being allowed to return home 10 years later. But still, he died in France. We move to Zimbabwe, where Zimbabwe's police force, including riot police, were out in full force patrolling the streets and stopping vehicles and people on the streets to check whether they had authority to be out in public. Zimbabweans have largely stayed home. The streets are quiet. Market stalls in the heart of the informal sectors also stood empty. So the police are doing that yesterday, and the police are still doing that today, and they'll still do it until I think Zimbabwe, I think, is at a lockdown for the next, about 21 days, if I'm not very long. So until these days are over, this will be the life that Zimbabweans will face there. And still in Zimbabwe, hundreds of healthcare professions in Zimbabwe are refusing to work because they say they don't have the equipment needed to protect themselves against catching the coronavirus. The Secretary General of the Zimbabwe Hospital Doctors Association, Dr. Emmanuel Masosota, told the BBC New Day that they're asking for the adequate equipment outlined in the World Health Organization's guidelines. Personal protective equipment can include eye protection, a gown and gloves, and they're saying they're not being offered this. And then we move to the DRC, where Koffi Olomide is the latest musician to release a song warning people to stay safe as the coronavirus pandemic takes hold. His offering is called Coronavirus Assassin, meaning killer coronavirus. Singing in Lingala and French, he urges listeners to stay indoors. Corona Assassin. All right, you go look up that song and then tell me how you like it. I've not had an opportunity to listen to it. And we move to Liberia, And not Liberia, but South Africa. And South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa has launched a mass screening program for coronavirus. The president on Monday evening said 10,000 field workers will be visiting homes to screen people, and those found with symptoms will be quarantined either in their homes or in hospitals. President Cyril Ramaphosa, good luck with that, knowing how South Africans are quarantining any African at home from the leafy suburbs works very well. They have enough space. But from the other side of town, good luck with that, especially in places like Soweto and other areas. It's going to be a challenge. And we go to Eritrea. Their leaders across East Africa and the Horn of Africa met via video conferencing for a meeting aimed at forging a regional plan to combat the coronavirus pandemic. In all, 4 presidents, Somalia, Uganda, Kenya, Djibouti, were joined by 2 prime ministers, Ethiopia, Sudan, and the executive secretary of the Intergovernmental Authority on Development, IGA, Wokne Gebeyehu, and also the South Sudan leader was also represented by his first Vice President Riek Machar. Now, the virtual summit was organized on Monday, March 30th, by the IGAD Secretariat with a view to adopt a regional response strategy and establish an emergency fund, while calling on the international community for a global coordinated approach, the IGAD chief said. But guess who was missing? Eritrea. And we go to Guinea. The Guinean opposition last Saturday, March 28th, rejected the result of a constitutional referendum, which they fear will be used by President Alpha Conde to extend his grip on power. The proposal to change the constitution was hugely controversial in the West African state, past sparring mass demonstrations in which at least 32 people have been killed, according to an AFP News tally. And we go to South Sudan, where the U.S. Embassy in Juba says it recently facilitated a return to the U.S. as some of its citizens who were stranded in South Sudan despite a ban on an international flight. Last week, the high-level task force on coronavirus closed Juba International Airport to all international flights with limited exceptions, including cargo and humanitarian flights. And still in South Sudan, and the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs says it will, in collaboration with WFP, soon start a door-to-door food distribution in South Sudan. This is in preparation for the possible COVID-19 outbreak, which has been confirmed in the neighboring countries, including Ethiopia, Kenya, Uganda, and Sudan. The pandemic has affected work and economy after President Salva Kiir announced preventative measures last week. And then we move to, let me see, these are the countries over here. We move to Cameroon, where police in Cameroon have begun arresting people who defy measures put in place to stop the spread of coronavirus, which has so far infected 139 people in the Central African state. Police are sealing shops that exceed maximum numbers for customers, impounding vehicles that carry too many passengers, and this week arrested more than 50 prostitutes for sneaking into hotels used to isolate suspected cases. Is that the headline that we just read a while ago? Yeah, the headline said the prostitutes in Cameroon are becoming very creative. Is this what they are doing? This is not good. All right. It's very interesting, I guess. You know, people have to work, right? We move to Libya, and the Libyan authorities have announced the release of more than 450 prisoners as part of the measures to curb the spread of the coronavirus that has infected at least 8 people in the country. And then we go to Somalia, where a local official in the northeastern Somalia has been killed in a suicide bomb blast claimed by the Al-Shabaab armed group, according to police and medical resources. And then we look at let's look at some statistics here from Africa. Now, before we do that, Tanzania, let's look at Tanzania. And of course, Tanzania's health ministry has announced the country's first death from the COVID-19, the respiratory disease caused by coronavirus. The patient was a 49-year-old Tanzanian man who had other underlying health conditions. The country has confirmed 18 cases to date, including 1 recovered patient. And in Botswana, President Mokgweetsi Masisi has called for calm after the country confirmed the first case of coronavirus coronavirus. Health Minister Lems Kwape said 3 travelers, 2 of them both from Thailand and the third one from the UK, tested positive for the virus. President Masisi said his government had been preparing for the eventuality and had an action plan to keep the people safe. Now, Botswana was among the few African countries yet to report coronavirus cases. Others include Lesotho, Comoros, Sierra Leone, South Sudan, Burundi, and Sao Tome and Principe. And of course, in Somalia, the government of Somalia has ordered the closure of all religious schools or madrasas in an effort to contain the spread of coronavirus. It has urged people to pray from home for the next 2 weeks instead of going to the mosque. And still in Nigeria, the U.S. is evacuating its nationals from Nigeria's commercial hub Lagos and the capital Abuja, and after the 2 cities are placed on a 2-week lockdown in a bid to prevent the spread of the coronavirus. The U.S. Embassy has tweeted that multiple emergency flights will leave the 2 cities this week. This is very interesting. And because owing to the number of cases that you've seen in the U.S., it's very interesting that they're evacuating people even from South Sudan. And South Sudan has not even recorded a single case, but they're still removing the U.S. citizens from there. And the U.S. right now, as we speak, is leading in the number of infections across the world. Matter of fact, let's just look at the statistics, and then I think we shall have, complete the show. And of course, we start with Kenya, and confirmed cases is at 50, recovered is 1 person, and 1 person is dead. South Africa, confirmed cases now stands at 1,326, recovered persons 31, and dead 3 people. Uganda, confirmed cases is 33, Tanzania, confirmed cases 19, recovered 1, and now the dead person is 1, as I have announced there earlier. And in Somalia, for confirmed cases are 3, 1 person has recovered, and in Zimbabwe, confirmed cases 7, dead 1. Ethiopia, confirmed cases 21, recovered 1 person. And then Sudan, confirmed cases at 6, and dead is 1. Angola, confirmed cases is 7, dead is 2. Zambia, confirmed cases stands at 35. Egypt, confirmed cases is at 659, recovered cases is 150, and Egypt has lost 41 people. Algeria, confirmed cases is at 584, recovered 37, dead is 35. And in Morocco, confirmed cases is at 556, recovered is 15, and the people that have lost their lives there in Morocco due to the COVID-19 is at 33. And in Tunisia, the confirmed cases is at 362, recovered at 3, and dead is 9. And in Burkina Faso, confirmed cases is at 246, recovered is 31, and 12 are dead. And we go to Ghana, where confirmed cases is at 152, recovered 2, and 5 people are dead. Senegal, confirmed cases is 162, recovered is 27, and Mauritius, confirmed cases is 110, 3 people are dead. Ivory Coast, confirmed cases is at 168, recovered is 6, dead, and then 1 dead person. Nigeria, confirmed cases is 39, recovered 8, and dead 1. And Cameroon, confirmed Nigeria is 31, and Cameroon is 139. Recovered cases is 5, and 6 people have been reported dead. And in the DRC, confirmed cases is 81, recovered 2, 8 dead people. And we go to Rwanda, where confirmed cases now stands at 7. And I might just add there that Rwanda is the country that is leading in the number of confirmed cases here in the East Africa region. And Madagascar, confirmed cases is 43, and Togo, confirmed cases is at 30, recovered person 1, and 1 dead person. And Mali, confirmed cases is at 18, and 1 dead person. And Niger, confirmed cases is at 27, and 3 dead people. Equatorial Guinea, confirmed cases stands at 12, and Namibia, confirmed cases at 11, recovered 2. Guinea, confirmed cases is at 22, and Mozambique, confirmed cases is at 8. Seychelles, confirmed cases is at 9. Gabon, confirmed cases is at 7, and 1 person is dead. Benin, confirmed cases is at 6. Eritrea, confirmed cases is at 12. And Gambia, confirmed cases is at 4, and 1 person dead. And Liberia have confirmed 3 cases. So the total confirmed coronavirus cases in Africa right now stands at 4,981. Did I just say right now? No. for about an hour and a half ago was at 4,981. Right now, the figures might have changed, all right? So the global summary as of 1.5 hours ago, the total cases confirmed globally stood at 785,807, and confirmed cases today only is at 1,092. And the death globally right now stands at 37,820, still representing 4.81% of the total infections. And the number of deaths that have been witnessed so far today is at 37. Recovered globally is at 165,659, representing about 21.08% of the total infections. And we look at the leading countries that we've seen this infection affecting so much across the globe, and Italy, of course, leading with the number of deaths. Right now, confirmed cases in Italy as of an hour and a half ago stands at 101,739 people, and the people who have died in Italy are at 11,591, and recovered cases there are at 14,620. And then we move to the United States, and confirmed cases there is at 164,253. People dead there is 3,167. Recovered cases are 5,507. Confirmed cases today only, and I think the last 24 hours is at 409. And China confirmed cases is at 81,470. People who have said to have died are 3,304. Recovered is 75,700, and confirmed cases today only is 31 people. And Spain confirmed cases is at 87,956. Dead is 7,716, and recovered is 16,780. And France confirmed cases is at 44,550. People who died there is 3,024. Recovered is 7,927 cases. And finally, we end with the UK, where the confirmed cases in the country is at 22,141. 1,408 people have died, and recovered is 135. So that is the latest figures as far as the coronavirus is concerned in Africa and globally. So thank you so much. This has been the Diaspora Dispatches. So we apologize for the poor signal, but hopefully when we meet later, it shall be well. So thank you so much for your time. My name is Miriam Ogutu. Good afternoon.